long after the time of Jesus were the events of his life written down?
Yeah, it's like going to a party where you whisper a sentence into the ear of one guy and they go around the circle and it comes out the other, and we all know that gets distorted. So they're saying, you know, Jesus did his thing over here at the beginning, and by the time it came down, maybe X amount of years, maybe 100 years, 200 years, the fact is when it was finally written down, the fact is it was completely distorted. So this picture of Jesus doesn't match this one here.
And so the fact that the Bible will say certain things doesn't mean that the things that it says are true. At least that's the way it's going to be portrayed in the classroom.
Yeah, because they're going to say that's just the product of the telephone line coming down, and they got the end result over here, and that was a little developed. That was making it up.
Yeah, and it can be subtle. It can be things like what ends up being said may have a relationship to what Jesus did. So it isn't necessarily coming out of thin air, and that sometimes they'll even trace the way they think the movement of thought went across time. But the point is, what you end up with and what you have when you're reading is really a reflection of late first century theology as opposed to being something that Jesus and the apostles were dealing with in the beginning.
Yeah, well, I can remember being in school, 30, 40 years ago. The fact is where people would actually, scholars would actually say, it came down 200 years later, okay, the Gospels and so on. Well, that's moved back. And let's talk about this little gap, because the gap's moved back. Most of the people would say that the New Testament books started to come out on the newsstands. Again, if Jesus died at 30, the letters of Paul, 45, 50, 60, and he's dead by 65, 66 with Peter, and John is dead by 95. So all the apostles are dead within that time period, and if their writings basically come from their teaching in one way or another, the fact is that's the information that we've got, and it's by 95.
The most optimistic dates that we have have a minimum gap of 20 years.
Yeah, so 20 years between the time of Jesus and writing. And so they have to say a whole lot of inventing took place really quick here. And again, we go back to this thing. Jesus, we all know, picked out 12 apostles. We all know that the people accepted them. And we know that they preached at Pentecost 50 days after Passover, and 3,000 people got saved, and they went back to 15 different people groups in the Roman Empire.
Now, everything that you just said could be on the table for discussion.